Today I'm starting a new video course that will introduce you to the Symfony. And we'll start with the controller. First you need to do is set up your project and install Symfony. Also you need to associate your local host with some URL that you will use. How to do it you can find in one of my previous videos. I'll leave link on it in the description under the video. What is a controller actually is? It's just a PHP file that will be located in controller folder. Its main task reads information from the request object and then creates and returns a response object. And as for controller folder, it will appear after you install Symfony. Also as src folder, so you can find it here. And in this src folder, all our code will live. So let's create our first controller. Let's understand what the controller contains. Here we see that it is a PHP file. Here we define the namespace where our controller lives. Here some statements. So, for example, we extend from abstract controller and we need to import it here, and we use for this use keyword. Also we use route in this case and in this case, and we import it and we return new response here and here, and we also import it. Here you see the name of the class. You can call it as you want, but common use practice to suffix it with controller. Also, you can see my first controller extends abstract controller. Let's open it. There are a lot of methods here. Let's explore it. For example, redirect returns a redirect response to the given URL. Redirect to route. JSON returns a JSON response that uses the serializer component, blah blah blah. File returns a binary file response. Add a flash message. Is granted, deny access unless granted, render view, render form renders the view and sets the appropriate status code when a form is listed in parameters. Stream a view, create not found exception, create access denied exception, create form builder, get user, is CSRF token valid, add link. You can explore it a little bit later. And so let's back to our first controller. It's called an action. Here and here we define URL where we will show response. There are two approaches that we can use inside controller. You can define route next to the code using annotation and attribute. They are both do the same thing. The difference is only in syntax. About name parameter here and here, I'll tell in other video. You only need to know that its value have to be unique. And here we return the response objects. I showed how to create a controller using the interface of the IDE. And now I'll show you how to do it using the Symfony MakerBundle and terminal commands. So let's go to the Symfony documentation. For this, you need to install Symfony Maker. Let's copy this command. And we will install it in Docker in PHP service. Okay, everything okay. And let's use this command to see the list of commands under the make namespace. there is really long list, and you can explore it a little bit later. And as you can see, we can create controller using make controller. Let's try this command and generate a new controller. So we can see that brand new controller was created. Let's find and open it. Here it. This controller contains all the same elements as the previous one. It returns the response in JSON format. Let's open this URL and see how it looks like. In this example, the command create controller and twig file that this controller will return, but I haven't installed twig yet. So in my case, the command don't create twig file, and so the controller return JSON. Also, using this command, you can generate an entire CRUD. But for this, you first need to create entity repository. Also, you need to create and set up DB. So I don't want to waste time on this. You can try running this command yourself. So, move on. As I said earlier, the response could be an HTML page or JSON, like in this case. Also, it could be XML, a file download, a redirect, a 404 error, and so on. Let's try different types of response. I want to start with a redirect. There are two methods that you can use for redirecting. The first one is redirect to route. Redirect to route. And the second one is redirect. The difference is that the second method does an external redirect. For example, I show it. For example, on Symfony documentation. I need to change here. So let's try. As you can see, it's work. The argument of redirect to route function is the name of the route, which must be unique, as I said earlier. And even if the address of the action changes, the name will remain the same, which means that the redirect will work correctly in this case. So let's try it. Let's back in this controller and make redirect here, for example, redirect to road. I want to add one more action. The main page name will be main, for example. Main. So, and here we return new response. Hello world. Okay. Okay. And here I want to make redirect to road. And as argument, I'll use the name of this road, main. Okay, let's try it. Using redirect to road, you can do a permanent HTTP 301 redirect. Let's try it. Okay, it's work. Instead of hard-coded numbers, you can use PHP constants. Also, you can make redirect to road with parameters. Let's try example from Symfony documentation. Let's try it from annotation. Okay, it's work. Also, using the render method, the controller can return response as an HTML page. To generate HTML pages, I'll use a template engine called Twig. So let's install it, and then I'll show how to return response object as an HTML page. Here appeared the template folder, and there you can see base.html.twig file. Let's return this file. As you can see, everything works. I'll tell about Twig in details in the separate video. Now let's return the response as XML, and I'll start from creating XML.twig file. The next type of response we are introduced to is downloading a file. It will be an image. First, I send the image and force the browser to download it. Also, we can configure behavior of the file function using some arguments. Let's download the image in a different way. I load the image from the file system, and only here I download it. Okay, it's work. Also, we can rename the downloaded image. Even more, we can display image in the browser instead of its downloading. In the controller, you can return a 400 for response. I'll show how to do it on the example of the other project. Here, I display contact card. I find contact in database using ID, and then I display it in the HTML page. I'll show you how it looks like. Let's try to make request with non-existent ID and check it by the exception condition. It's work. You can customize this error page for the user, but it will be another video about it. So let's move on. We talked about response, and now let's look at what arguments a controller method can take. There are a lot of useful services in Symfony. They can write logs, send emails, render templates, and so on. You can pass its class or interface name as argument of a controller method and then use it. I'll show the example. For this, I'll use logger service. What other services can you use? To see all of them, type this command in the terminal. Also, you can pass session object as the argument of the controller function. It gives you opportunity to store information about the user between requests. By default, session is enabled, but it will start only in that case if you read or write from it. I'll show you how it works with an example. On the user session, you can store special messages that are called flash messages. Imagine that you have submitted a form and you need to display a message to the user whether the operation was successful or not. That's what flash messages are for. Here I will show an example of how to display and customize flash messages. You can learn how it works with forms in my other video. The link on it will now appear in the upper right corner. So, let's back to the controller and delete from it everything we don't need. I leave only two actions. In the first one, I'll add flashes and make redirect on the other page. In the second one, I'll render the HTML page. This is a message, and this is a message K. You can name this K as you want, but I'll use part of bootstrapped classes from the alert component to easy customizing Flash messages. I'll show it. So, the controller sets a Flash message in the session and then redirects. Now we need to read the Flash message from the session in the base template. For this we will use the flashes method. I'll also show it now. Also, I need to include in my base template bootstrapped CSS and JS. And now let's test how it works. You also can add several types of Flash messages and then choose what to display or display all of them. Let's try it. The last thing I would like to say is a request object as a controller argument. Using this argument, you can read query parameters, grab a request header, get access to an uploaded file. So, the request object has some properties and methods that return any information you need about the request. Let's try one simple example. Here I retrieve an HTTP request header. And here I retrieve server variable. In more details, I'll tell about request and response in the separate video. And for today, it's all I wanted to explain and to show you. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this video and see you next time.